Legendary investor Warren Buffett waited until the final minute of his 60th shareholder meeting to announce his plans to retire, shocking investors, fans, and even his own board. The 94-year-old architect and face of Berkshire Hathaway is ending a historic run, turning what was a failing textile business in the 1960s into a corporate behemoth while delivering a 5.5 million% in gains per share to investors. Taking over the $1.2 trillion giant will be Canadian-born energy executive Greg Abel. He faces plenty of questions over his plans for Berkshire. While chief among them is plans for the almost $350 billion cash pile Buffett has accumulated while largely sitting out the volatility of the past few years. Joining us now from Spokane, Washington is Todd Finkle, author of Warren Buffett, Investor and Entrepreneur. He's also the Piggott Professor of Entrepreneurship at Gonzaga University. And also joining us from Omaha is Bill Stone, CIO at the Glenview Trust Company. Glenn, good to have you with us. Bill, let's start with you. I'm just wondering, how are you reading the timing of that announcement? You know, I mean, we see its stock at record high prices. Well, it couldn't be a better time for that announcement.
Yeah, and I guess I taken even from last year's meeting that it looked very obvious to me that Greg Abel was running most of the operations day to day at Berkshire, and Buffett was very happy with that. I think spending all of his time reading and investing rather than getting involved in the management, which he tends not to do a lot of that or tries to do very little of that as possible. It still shocked me a bit that he handed over the reins to, or is saying he's going to hand over the reins to, the capital allocation, just because I know, or from reading everything, that's what Warren Buffett loves most of all. But it probably makes most sense for the company. He is 94. We all only have so long, and I actually, as a shareholder, like that there's going to be some amount of overlap with Todd being, Greg, I'm sorry, being in charge of capital allocation.
Todd, why are we even surprised? Since 94 is a long time coming.
Well, I was a little bit shocked, but I kind of saw it based on the things that were happening in the meeting that it just didn't make sense. A lot of the questions that were being asked that he was answering were more on personal growth. And he had all these young people asking questions like about life, and what should I do and all that stuff. Now, he's had that before at meetings. I've been to 15 meetings, and usually they're a nice change from what's on the balance sheet, And but to me, I've written this book, and I've taken tons of students to go visit him and been out to lunch with him 3 times. And my students all say the same thing, that the best thing that they learned from him was how to be a better person.
But Todd, what does it mean for the company?
For the company, Greg's been there for like 26 years, and he is a vice chairman already, and he's just going to take over Warren's position. I think he's going to do a great job. He's been mentored all these years. I haven't heard one negative thing about Greg Abel. Not one negative thing. But
Bill, Greg is 63. Most CEOs are thinking about retiring at that age. And there are expectations that when the stock starts trading today, it will go lower.
Well, I think the one thing you have to know about, certainly a lot of people at Berkshire, and I'd say it stretches to a lot of us investment people, is we hope to never retire. I can, at least that's the way I feel. So you can certainly go on for a long time, right? He's got at least another, 32 years, right? So he has some time. Certainly, if the stock might be indicated lower, it certainly adds to some uncertainty. We all knew this day was going to come at some point. Like I said, I think if you're a shareholder, you feel good that it happened before, I'll say it, quote unquote, had to happen. Because really, as I looked at Warren Buffett during that meeting, he's still very sharp. His mind is extremely sharp. He actually looked to me to have more energy this year than he had last year. And I think part of that was, of course, Charlie Munger passing away not long before the meeting last year. So I think that was a little bit of a downer. But for a 94-year-old guy, he seemed, very energetic. Maybe he was also excited to pass along the news in the end. But, I'm optimistic. As long as Greg doesn't try and be Warren Buffett, I think he'll probably do just fine.